On the challenges facing Syria, I'm joined by Dr. Samir Abboud. He's an associate professor of international studies at Arcadia University in Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Professor. It's good to see you. This economy, the electricity problems in the economy, and there are a lot of different angles, so I'm going to try to focus as much as I can on one particular issue. But let's just start with the economy in general. It has not done well. We don't even have proper numbers to measure how badly the economy has done. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, it's virtually impossible to determine what the actual extent of the losses are. The United Nations, through the ESCWA program, has estimated it's somewhere in the hundreds of millions of dollars each year. The Syrian government, of course, has its own estimates at the damage, and so does the opposition, the exiled political opposition. The estimates differ wildly. But, you know, the consensus, of course, is that there has been considerable damage to the infrastructure, to homes, to livelihood, to assets, and, of course, you know, to the purchasing power of Syrians whose assets over the last 4+ years have dwindled. Their wages have remained stagnant for those who have jobs. The overwhelming majority of Syrians are living in poverty at the moment. And so life has become extremely difficult at the household level, not to mention at the macroeconomic level where there's been complete contraction.
Yeah, it's something that we're obviously very cognizant of, is that there's the household level, then there's the corporate level, then there's the government level, and unfortunately everything kind of depends on what happens on the government level. And right now you have this conflict that it doesn't seem to be there's an end in sight, and businesses are not going to invest when there's this level of uncertainty, let alone the households. So ultimately it's the government that would have the control to perhaps end the conflict. Has there been any talk there from the folks that you speak with when, in terms of timing, things could get a little better?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The problem is that everybody wants everything to get better, and everyone seems committed to a political solution, or everyone believes at least that a political solution is the best way out of it. Unfortunately, that most of the armed groups on the ground and most of the supporters of the rebels and the government believe that a military solution is around the corner. And so there's a bit of a contradiction there between the commitment, the public commitment to a political solution and what's actually happening on the ground. I think, unfortunately, the conflict is becoming very protracted. It's entering into a very dark period of a stalemate, and you see the kind of slow fragmentation of the country, which makes the possibilities of a political solution, at least in the short term, extremely difficult, if not impossible, because there are too many interests on the ground right now that can torpedo or sabotage any peace process.
We mentioned earlier about some of the damaged infrastructure, from electricity grids to roads to bridges and the like. I guess the question is, how badly are they damaged, and are at least some of them getting repaired?
Yes, many of the stations have, you know, undergone repairs, as we heard in the segment right before. Some of the damage is minimal and can be repaired on the spot, but most of the damage, especially in the northern part of the country, in Aleppo, which is a major population center, and in Hama and Homs, in those areas, there is such significant damage to that infrastructure, and to my knowledge, very little is being done to repair that. That emphasis is being placed on the grids in and around Damascus and into the northwest of the country, but many of the areas that are under rebel control simply don't have the capacity, the funding to engage in the kind of large-scale repairs to infrastructure that are needed to get the grid back up. And then there are, of course, as we heard in the segment, the daily attacks on the workers, the checkpoints that keep workers away from these stations. And then, as I know from friends and family in Damascus, that when the electricity does come on, there's such immense pressure on the grid that often it collapses simply from the pressure, because people are waiting to heat, to use electricity to charge their phones, their computers, all sorts of things. So there's a tremendous amount of pressure, and it's unlikely that the physical infrastructure can be rebuilt.
All right, Dr. Samir Abboud, Associate Professor at Arcadia University, giving us some insights of what's happening there on the ground. Now,